really excited to dive into your story. I mean, when I think about all the things you've done, I have to pull up a list because you've done it so fast and so much. We're going to talk about your football accolades and things like that. But when we talk about just that transition off the field into what you've done as a director of player development, executive director of player development and administration, then you've gone into a senior associate AD for strategy and business operations. I mean, these things like year after year after year. And now you're the current executive GM for all of the athletic department, managing all of their sports.
Yeah.
I mean, it's truly an honor to sit down and get the chance to dive into it, and playing together and seeing us as young men playing the sport to making that transition off the field is truly remarkable to see what you've done. But before we really get into that, I want to take us all the way back to Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah.
Birmingham, Alabama, where you grew up, you was born and raised. Take us through a little bit of some of those things, some of those aspects that shape you, throughout your family and community.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on this podcast. It seems like I've been running away and we're trying not to be on, but, just schedule really busy, family life, juggling all of it has been very interesting. But man, I'm delighted to be here, bro. There's love, going back from our playing days and just the opportunity to see you grow as a person and see your family. And so I'm super excited to be here and to dial into, whatever question that you have for me. And so the first one being going back to Birmingham. Well, I grew up in a single parent household, the youngest of 5. And, my mom worked like the graveyard shift. And so my sister really raised me. And having to be there with her every day was kind of interesting because, she was the second in command behind my mom. But I had an oldest brother who, did his own thing. And I had a middle brother too, who kind of, did his own thing too. And they were just like me, the youngest. So it was just her and I. And, she made sure that I went to school, made sure I had breakfast in the morning because my mom didn't get there in time. And then she would walk me to school. And so I just think back to those formative years in terms of just how she helped me from an organizational standpoint. And then just, figuring it out, different processes and procedures. I knew at certain times at night I had to be in the house because it was a danger zone.
When was that? When the street lights?
When that street light come on. That street light come on, you better be in the house. And so, again, I grew up in housing projects. I tell everybody that. And just understanding my environment really helped me to learn to be more observant and to really, try to figure things out on my own.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of critical thinking that was happening as a young kid. There was a lot of, just understanding the tangible, intangibles, understanding people too, right? Yeah. Who had your best interests, who wanted to harm you. And so just growing up in those environments in Birmingham, Alabama helped shape me. And, my mom did what she could and ensured that, we had what we needed from an essential standpoint. And my sister was, the primary caretaker.
Yeah. Well, it's actually interesting because we are reversed. We're flipped. I was the oldest of 5.
Oh, man.
And so I was the second in the command.
Yeah.
Well, I tell people all the time, my mom had me when she was 15. And so we pretty much grew up together. And so I would call us 1A, 1B,
Yeah, that's how my oldest brother was. My mom had him when she was 15.
Yeah. So when you early on, you have those type of responsibilities of making sure your brothers and sisters are taken care of before they go to school. It teaches you a whole lot. And you said a really, really critical thing that I think is kind of missing a little bit in this day and age is that critical thinking piece, which we also at Team Q at our company calls it mental performance, because what you were doing was mental gymnastics, which being able to watch people, understand who was here to help you, who was there to harm you, looking at your environment in ways that as a young kid, our kids are not getting that kind of experience, which nor do we want them to have that kind of experience. But we also have to recognize that our kids still need that critical thinking, and it's not just going to come from school. You have to use all your aspects of things, environment around you to do that. And so I'm glad you said that. Yeah. Because that's a really, really important piece.
Yeah. Well, when you just think about growing up and you think about how you've been able to be successful, like you just talked about the different, achievements that I had over the past couple of years in a workplace. Well, most of it is derived from critical thinking, being problem solving, oriented. And so a lot of people don't know that, oh man, I can bring all the problems in the world, but can you solve those problems too? A lot of it lies in the critical thinking aspect. And for me, if I can give my kids anything, I hope it's that critical thinking space.
Right.
And I know we'll talk about college a bit too, but when I went to Vanderbilt, it was interesting because, coming from inner city Birmingham, I wasn't like really prepared for college. Yeah. I wasn't prepared for Vanderbilt for sure, right?
Yeah.
And
academically,
I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know some of the words that were being said around me. Like I'm hearing the word chortle, and I'm like, "What the hell is chortle?" And people are laughing. I'm like, "Oh, let me Google this, right? To figure out what it is." But you start to see how in that environment, the people will sit there in silence until you answer. And so they will look at you, a professor will call on you and ask you a question, and the whole room will go silent until you actually say something.
Right.
So there was one time, I forget, I think it was in like a psych class, and they posed a question to me, and I was like, like I don't talk, professor, like, no, don't call on me. I don't like to say nothing. And she just sat there and just like stood there and didn't say anything.
Made you real uncomfortable.
Oh, you talk about hands sweating, like armpit, etc. And I don't even know what I said. I was so nervous, but I said something. And afterwards, I was like, man, that probably sounded so dumb. And post class, she come up to me and said, hey, you should talk more. I really appreciate your perspective. And I was like, okay, well, this little country boy from inner city Birmingham, actually have, thought processes that and different life skills to implement, to engage with in classes that a lot of people don't have. And that was like very formative for me to understand, like from a critical thinking standpoint, to apply some of those things that I did learn in Birmingham into the classroom. And so if I could give anything to my kids, man, critical thinking.
Yeah. So, but before we even get into your college experience, we really dive into that, what was it like just trying to figure out what is it that I'm going to do? Were you an academic guy? Were you, basketball?
Yeah.
We know you went on to play, get drafted in NFL.
Yeah.
What was that mindset like of how was Earl Bennett going to get out of the situation he was in?
Yeah, man, that's a really good question. And a lot of people don't know this, but I actually, I was thinking about escaping poverty by being a doctor.
Okay.
So my thought process was, hey, look, I'm going to go to a top school. I'm going to be a neurosurgeon, and then I'm going to help my family, escape poverty. What happened during that like moment of, trying to figure out what I wanted to do was my brother came to me one day and he was talking trash. And so I was a basketball kid growing up, and he was like, man, basketball is easy and football is really hard. You got to be tough to play football. I said, man, football ain't hard. You just got to be fast and not run people. And he was like, no, it ain't. It's more than that. You got to hit people. I said, not if you fast, they can't catch you, right? And he was like, I bet you can't do it, right? And I was like, challenge, all right, let's go. And so I was like, man, really infatuated with like Jerry Rice and just like his work ethic and seeing him play. And I became like a huge fan of Charles Woodson. And I know we'll circle back on this, but it's interesting because I had like his jersey, like Charles Woodson rookie jersey when he was with the Raiders. Wow. That was the first jersey I ever received. And, I'm like, man, do I really want to go play football? But I kind of have to now because like my brother just challenged me, right?
Yeah.
So I go out and play. I'm 8 years old, show up, Little League. The coach goes in his trunk, hand me some pads, helmet, shoulder pads, etc. It smelled like oil. I'll never forget. It smells just like oil. And he's like, all right, we'll see you tomorrow. I'm like, all right, bet. See you tomorrow. Well, go to practice the next day. I'm ready to roll. He's like, hey, we're going to put you right here on this line. I don't know nothing about football at all. I'm like, line? Like, I just want to run past people. I'm fast. Nope, my guy put me at left guard.
Fundamentals, baby.
And I'm there, and kids are just teeing off at me. Like kids have been playing for about a year or two.
Yeah.
They're just smacking the heck out of me.
That toughness your brother was talking about.
Oh, yeah. And so I'm crying. Like I'm literally crying like on the like football field. I ain't show up no more. It was my first and last day playing football.
Really?
Yeah. So I stopped playing. And then, so my brother, he's talking trash. He's like, oh, you're a quitter. I'm like, man, I hurt my shoulder. I can't go back, And 2 years later, I have like some friends that are started playing football. And they're like, hey, man, you want to come out and play with the team? I'm like, yeah, cool. I'll go out. So it's a totally different team than the other. We moved from the east side to the west side. So now we're on the west side. And I go and I'm playing. I'm like, all right, this should be fine, right? New coach put me at left tackle. I'm like, yo, what is going on here?
How big were you? Were you a big kid?
No, I was little. I was small. That was confusing to me. And so, I stick with it. And, I fought through adversity. I fought through the pain. I fought through just like, being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I started at left tackle for us. And probably mid-season, they moved me to defensive end. Well, I was fast, right? And I could like get around people. So I just used that to my advantage to just basically come off the edge and blitz, right? Every time.
You wouldn't have got around me, Earl, I'll just tell you.
Yeah, I was fast, man. Now I wasn't trying to get touched now, so I probably run like a whole loop. But so I started doing that and, started to have some success. And I was like, well, maybe I should stick with this thing and see where it goes. So then I played the next year, same position, and then we move again. And so when we moved, I was starting sixth grade and I didn't really know the people in the area. So I didn't play in the sixth grade. So I said, hey, let me try to play like in a band or something. My dad played in a band, so he brought me his trumpet. And it's funny because they was like, yeah, man, your lip's too big to play the trumpet. I was like, God, goodness gracious. Like,
who need
like, bro, I'm in
Jack?
sixth grade. Like, yeah, I'm just talking. So then they had me a tuba. This is a true story. So they had me a tuba. And I started playing the tuba and I said, man, I'm done with this. I'm done with football. Like, I'm just going to be a student. I'm going to focus on my academics and, I'll figure out what that neurosurgeon path looked like.
Yeah.
Seventh grade come, we have recess. I go out and like kids are just playing like throw up tackle. And I'm like, oh, this should be fun, right? So I go out and we're playing throw up tackle. And there's this one kid he's like the fastest kid in the school. You know how you always have that kid. Well, he's running and I track him down and I just grab him and just body slam him. And the PE coach like runs up to him like, hey. And I'm thinking I'm in trouble. I'm like, oh man. He's like, hey, what's your name? Right? I'm like, Coach, I was here last year. I'm like, Earl. And so like we introduced ourselves. He said, man, you ever play football? I said, yeah, but I'm away from it, Coach. I'm done playing. He was like, give it one more try. And I was like, I was like, man, I don't know about that. And he was like, man, I saw you run. Like you gonna be all right. He said, Coach, I don't know about this. Like this, like I've tried this sport and it haven't delivered me the results that I want. And he was like, well, we can change those results. And from there, man, went and played seventh grade. I started at safety and he was like, all right, next year we're losing our running back and we'll switch you to running back. And so it didn't become like really apparent to me that I can change like my life and my parents' life through the game of sport until I got into eighth grade.
Yeah.
And when I got into eighth grade, I knew I was good in eighth grade. Like I was averaging 3-4 touchdowns a game. And it was like, all right, like maybe this is the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you go through that changing positions, you get into a place where now you're starting to get recruited and you're trying to figure out, okay, what track do I want to be on? Do I want to stay on the academic path or do I want to go and still play football?
Yeah.
How do I do both? And it seemed like when you look at your options, Vanderbilt allowed you to do both. Why did you choose Vandy?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So early in the recruiting process, I committed to Kentucky. I got squeezed. They put me in a room and they said, hey, if you don't take this scholarship offer right now, it ain't going to be here when you walk out the door. So I was like, oh, man, it was my first scholarship offer from a Division I school, let alone the SEC. So I committed to Kentucky, and probably 2 weeks later, Vandy walked in the door, and I'll never forget the conversation with Vandy, and I like to share it because I have a great relationship with the recruiting coach to this day, Coach Robert Caldwell. He come in the building and he goes, hey, listen now, I just want to let you know, like, we want you at Vanderbilt. And he has like this deep Southern accent. He goes, I'm gonna tell you what now. Now there are gonna be a lot of other white coaches that's gonna come in this door. You just remember who was the first one. Like that's what he told me. And I said, all right, coach, like don't know what you're talking about, but I got you. Man, the next day Notre Dame sent the white coach in. And the day after that, Southern Miss. The day after that, like South Carolina. And like they were just rolling into school. And I happened to talk to him like next week. I said, yeah, coach, like you weren't lying. Like everybody sent like a white coach in this school because Kentucky had sent a black coach. And it was just funny. But man, I wanted to go somewhere where I could play wide receiver. Mm. And every school that was recruiting me said I was going to play safety or be like the nickel, like rover type guy. Yeah. And I don't like tackling. Like I don't. Now, could I play like free safety, center field, track a ball down, run some people down, get them on the ground? Yeah. But in terms of like in college, right? Like you got to think the running back is 6'2", 230. You got to feel that whole, like, man, you got that lane, you got this alley, and you got people like Mike Wallace running 4.3s and you getting covered 2. You know what I'm saying? Like
Earl, self-awareness. He's built with self-awareness.
Oh, listen, I know myself very well. And I'm looking at this thing like, bro, if you want a chance to like play at the next level, you might want to play wide receiver. Yeah. And so Kentucky, what was interesting about the Kentucky ordeal too is they were only sending the cornerback coach to the house to meet with me. And I said, hey man, I'm confused. You guys know I want to play wide receiver. Why you keep coming? Like, why haven't I met with the receiver coach? And he was like, oh yeah, because we want you to play DB. And I said, all right, I got you. And later that day, I decommitted. And when I decommitted, Vandy, Notre Dame, everybody asked me to come on official visits. I took one to Vandy. And the people, man, like they were just genuine. Yeah. They were honest and they weren't like the salesmen. You know, I always tell kids when they come to Vandy, like, I ain't selling you on nothing. You know, like I'm not going to sit here and say, son, if you come to this school, you're going to be one of the greatest players to ever play. Right. Like everybody give you that spit. Man, it's so good to meet you and your family. Like it's just like, it's not natural. It ain't organic. It ain't authentic. And so like you're in that space of like, man, this is cringeworthy, right? Right. And I went to Vandy and it was just like, oh man, like you can relax. Like these are relatable people that you can have conversations with. Yeah. And you know, I was like, all right, I'm seriously interested in Vanderbilt. And I was supposed to take a trip to Notre Dame, and I canceled it because I was like, man, I think Vandy's right for me. And I'm in class, and like we had this long hallway, and I'm in Spanish class, and I look down the hallway, and like coach is sprinting, head football coach sprinting down the hallway, like straight towards like our room, and you see black people running, you like, oh man, what's happening? I gotta get out. Do I need to get out of here or something? And so I'm just looking, and I'm like nervous. I'm like, yo, he running fast. And he come down to class, and he goes, hey, can I get Earl out real quick? And I'm like, hey, what's up, coach? He's like, Coach Weiss, Charlie Weiss just called me and said that you canceled your trip to Notre Dame. I said, yeah. I said, I think I'm going to Vandy, coach. He said, son, are you kidding me? He go, this is Notre Dame. He go, you got to be out of your mind. I said, no, coach, I'm good. I think I'm going to go to Vandy. And he was like, you got to be me, right? And left. And probably 2-3 weeks later was signing day. Signed with Vandy, he ain't show up. My mom was there, dad was there, but coach wasn't there. And it was just like, oh my gosh, like these people really don't understand like me as a player, right? Like they don't understand that my thought process is totally different from a lot of people because I wasn't going to a school just to go there and help, win games. Like there's a selfish aspect of in the competitive side of the athlete that states like, man, I'm trying to get to the next level. Right. And so when you just look at a lot of schools, they want you to come in and help their program. Well, how's your program going to help me? Yeah. Right. Like how does the two like really mesh together to work in tandem for both the institution and for the student athlete? And so I wanted to go to Vandy because I knew no matter what happened on that football field, right? Like,
good.
I'm good. Like, I'm at one of the best academic institutions in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew I was going to be covered on that side. So the school had already done me a solid, right? Everything that happened on the football field was just like cherry on top, right? It's just like the icing. And, I dedicated myself to my craft. I went in that spring camp focused as a freshman, wanted to, start. And so the rest is history.
I mean, you go on and you set all kinds of receiving records. I mean, become one of the best to do it at Vandy.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're sitting here in a position where that mindset, that focus that you were looking at to say, I want to get to the next level, but I also want to have plan A and plan B.
Yeah.
And now you're sitting here with opportunity to be a 3rd round draft pick by the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. So coming out for that draft, it was like, man, like, do I want to enter the draft? Do I not want to enter the draft? But you got the people don't understand. I only played 3 years at Vandy, right? And I left as the all-time SEC reception leader, right? In 3 years. And I was like, dude, if I come back for one more year, what else do I have to do? Like what am I going to aspire for, right? Like, I got the records. Now, you can come back from a team perspective and say, like, help them get to a bowl game. But then, like, there's added risk in terms of, like, you being an older player, injury, et cetera.
Right.
I had already had, like, an ankle injury that was lingering. I pulled my quad early in the season, played through both of them. And so it was just like, dude, like, here's an opportunity for you to get drafted in the 3rd round. Do you go? And it was funny. I talked to Mel Kiper on the phone. I talked to a lot of people in the league, and they said, yeah, we think no later than the 3rd round. And so I decided to leave. Knowing that I had to come back and at some point finish up that Vanderbilt degree. Right. And so the athletic director at the time was David Williams. And I looked at David and he said, you have to make me a promise that you will come back and you finish your undergrad degree.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, man, I'll for sure. Yes, sir. I'll come back and finish that up. And so I kept promising my word and came back and finished it up.
Yeah, well, before we even get into that, we're gonna do a quick pause here, and we're gonna do my 2-minute session going into halftime. I like to do. You ready for that? We're gonna slow it down just a little bit. Your funniest teammate. It could be pro or college.
Funniest teammate. Gosh. Oh, actually, this is really easy now that I think about it. Is Anthony Adams,
Spice Adams, maybe.
Man, that what's funny is, dude, like, love the heck out of that dude, man. We've had some real serious conversation. We had some very like funny, laughable ones, but he gave me and Chris Harris a shout out in Forbes when he did the interview because he didn't understand Twitter, and I said, dude, man, like, you need to go and put this stuff on Twitter, bro. Yeah. Like, this is funny. And he was just like reluctant, right? He's like, nah, because he was like the older guy in the locker room. I'm the young guys. Like, I ain't listening to you, this young buck. He don't know what he's talking about. But man, just to see his career and where he's at is amazing.
Yeah, one of my favorite people. Favorite SEC stadium to play in?
Oh, this one's easy too. Florida. Yeah, I love to play down in Florida, down in the swamp. We lost triple overtime my freshman year in a swamp, and that thing was rocking, man. It's loud, the crowd's rowdy, and it's just one of those spaces to where you hear the tradition, right? You understand Spurrier, you understand like Rex Grossman and all those guys. And so I grew up watching them and having an opportunity to play in that stadium. It was special.
Yeah, that's the one stadium I didn't get a chance to play in.
Oh, it's nice, really nice.
Yeah. All right. Give me a coach that made one of the biggest impact on your life.
One of the coaches who made the biggest impact on my life. I have to go with my high school basketball coach. He recently passed, but his demeanor and his way of doing things was a little unorthodox. It was different. He was a tough, macho, like, you better have your stuff together every day that you show up, right? And so he kind of, placed in my mind just, when you having a hard day, don't nobody care, right? Like, when you come into practice, don't nobody care.
Yeah.
Like, when you come to practice, you better get yourself together so you can practice and do a good job. And so I recall, this one practice, man, football, because I played quarterback. I think it was my junior year. And, I'm throwing like slant routes and I'm like, they just hitting the dirt. And he came over there. And again, like this is back in the day. So coaches put their hands on you, right? So he came over there and he called it like a shock treatment where like he just take his forearm and just like hit you in the chest. And he hit me in the chest and I just dropped the football and I went on the defensive side, right? So I went over to safety and his son was the backup quarterback. So now his son got to play quarterback. Here. And man, I started jumping slant routes and picking them, taking them to the house. Like any ball that his son threw, like I didn't care. I was just like taking risks. Again, like I was one of the top DBs, right? So I was pretty good. And every time I was like picking them off, I throw the ball like in the parking lot. Like I throw it as far as I can in the parking lot, right? And again, like to get that out of me, like you have to do it. Like I have to be really mad, right? So I'm like picking it and I'm just throwing it in the parking lot every time. And he goes, I like that. That's how you show up to practice, right? And so like it's just like the imprint that he had in terms of, like show up, man. Yeah. Like always do your best, right? Like it goes back to I just finished reading like the 4 agreements, like always do your best. Yeah. Like literally always do your best. And that's what, he was saying in so many words with the shock treatment is that like, dude, you're better than that. Yeah. And you can do better. Yeah. And so we lost 2 state championship games and, he was just a really, really good coach that really just dove into just the aspect of, hey man, just show up.
To get you to show up. Yeah.
Got to show up.
All right, we're going to jump back in. You kind of ended off on talking about, being you was only at Vandy for 3 years, set a bunch of records. Yep. What's next? And then you end up getting drafted by the Bears in the 3rd round. Mm-hmm. But that one agreement that you made with your athletic director was to come back and get your degree. And I'm sure your mom had that thumb on you. It was like,
my mom was on me.
So I'm sure she was on you.
Yeah.
But you go back and not only you get your degree, but then you also get a PhD in philosophy.
Yeah.
What was that thing in your mind that was driving you to be more than just what they say as an athlete, just be an athlete? Because you could have chose after making the money you made, you could have chose to say, you know what, we'll go play golf. Yep. We'll go hang out, do my thing. But you chose to go back and double down on your education. What was that? What was that driving force for you?
Man, so this is funny to me because like I've never like really shared openly in terms of like my thought process, what happened and how it all like unfolded. So after I got drafted, I came back my rookie year and I took some classes. I did well, right? Second year, well, my rookie year, I didn't play in a lot of games, right? Yeah. So like relatively like in good position, my body, right? I feel good about things and I'm fine. Second year, I play all 16 games. Yeah. And I come back to school and I'm like, man, my buddies are down in Miami hanging out, training, and I'm here in school. Yeah, I'm good. I'm gonna drop these classes and I'm gonna go down to Miami and I'm gonna hang out and I'm gonna train, right? At that same time, Jay had got traded to Chicago. That was my second year. So at the end of that, he had got traded. So he was like training in like certain spaces too. So I was like, man,
Jay Cutler. Did you play with him in Vandy?
Yeah, sorry, Jay Cutler. I played with him at Vandy.
So you played with him at Vandy. All right. Yeah. So things were kind of all right, okay.
It was coming together for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, cool, man. I'm gonna get back to school at some point, but like I'm gonna just focus on my craft right now because I know that, being a starter this past year, the expectation is only going to continue to rise. And so I didn't go back to class the next couple of years that I was in the league. And so when I finished in 2014, I'm sitting there like, all right, I have money, right? So money ain't a problem. And I have time, right? And so what do I want to do? Man, that transition for me was rough. Like I'm talking about, I don't know what to do, right? I got so much time on my hands. I'm used to somebody handing me a schedule, say, hey, here's reporting day, here's practice schedule, et cetera.
I don't know if people realize and understand that it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, it doesn't matter how the work ethic, all those different things. it is a very difficult transition to make.
Yeah.
From being this thing that you've done a lot of your life to do something different. It's a really hard transition. So to hear your academic side of things, in the focus that you had on your academics and wanting to be, a doctor and all these different things, to still then now come back and have that transition, like it's not easy.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I struggle like mightily, like arguments with my wife over just like small things, or not even having the energy or the motivation to get up and want to do other things. Because again, like I got millions of dollars in the bank. I sit in $1 million house. My cars are paid off. Like I don't have like any debt, and it's like I don't have any motivation to move and want to do anything outside of like just chill and hang out. But then just chilling and hang out bring like all this like negativity, doubt, like insecurities, etc. And so I said, hey, we gonna pack up and I'm gonna go back to Vandy and I'm gonna finish up these last credits so I can finish my undergrad. 28 hours in one semester.
Wow.
To finish my undergrad at Vandy. So I had to take 6 hours that came from BYU, but all of them was at Vandy. Yeah. And it was crazy. Like, man, you talk about I was studying for finals. I'm in class. Like it was crazy. And so I finished up my undergrad and I said, you know what? Like, I think I'm going to jump in and I'm going to get a master's degree real quick.
Because now you're already in that.
Because I'm in that mode, and like the mindset is back, and like you're like I'm more nourished to like go ahead and like complete this stuff. And so I get in the master's program, and I'm crushing it, and like literally probably 2 weeks at the end of it, the professor come to me, and she goes, "Man, you have literally the life experience." You have like an expertise not many people have. If you gain all the credentials that you need, it'll be hard for people to tell you can't do something.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, I think you should pursue a JD or either a PhD. And if you gain one of those, you'll set yourself up and your chart places that you never even like thought you'd be. I said, man, I ain't got time for that. You know what I'm saying? No. Like, I'm like, I ain't. No. I do not have time for that. And she was serious though. Like Dr. Christina Da Silva, Vanderbilt, she was like, man, like, dude, I'm telling you, like you'll be a game changer. And so I started to look at programs. Upon retirement, we moved to Houston, and we were just chilling, hanging out. And I interviewed for that PhD program, and literally before I walked out of the door, the department chair came and grabbed me and said, "Hey, man, we want to offer you a full scholarship to this program."
Wow!
And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he said, "People typically finish this in 3 to 5 years," and I looked at him and I said, "I'll finish it in 3." And that was my mindset. I woke up every morning at 6 o'clock. So I then flipped it, right? Like I flipped what I used to do in football and transitioned it to the classroom and what I did.
Because that foundation
was already there.
That foundation was there.
We just don't know how to transition certain aspects of what we learn playing sports to whatever, endeavor that you want to compete in. And so started getting up at 6:30. I'm writing, I'm studying, I'm reading. In 3 years, man, I finished it.
I just want to pause and just really soak up that foundation piece.
Yeah.
I mean, how great a feeling was it once you switched into that mindset that you were able to reach around and feel it and say, oh, I have that here.
Yeah.
I have it.
Yeah.
Let me just flip it and apply it to do something different.
Yeah, and I don't think there are enough courses that bring in athletes that walk through and talk to them about just like the sheer essence of, hey, here's what you do on a regular basis and how it applies to your current workspace or what you want to do or things that you're like excited about?
Think about like a linebacker. I was thinking about this, having a conversation with someone the other day about this. Think about the linebacker position. What are they doing every single day? Assessing risk.
Yeah, for sure.
They're sitting there assessing, okay, if the running back goes here, I got to figure out, is it risky for me to go over the top, or is it risky for me to go back here to make this play?
Yeah.
Quarterback, I'm reading his eyes. Okay, is it risky for me to go jump this route, or is it risky for me just to stay here do I just stay here in my zone? Like, we start taking that mindset and shifting that to other career paths.
Yep.
Like, take that same person and go into insurance.
Oh yeah.
Risk assessments.
Yeah, for sure.
Or financial institutions.
Yeah.
They're assessing risk, figuring out how do I help my clients get set up to make more money here, and hey, let's de-risk you over here. Like, if we apply those same type of mindsets into the game, as we use in the game into life, man, it's a beautiful thing. And for you to then realize that, and you make that shift and say, I'm applied. Now you up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Now you're figuring out you got that routine.
Yep.
You get that routine, you get it done in 3 years.
Oh, you're good.
What was that relief, that joy like once you got there, once you finished that?
Man, and this is something that I'm working on. It was what's next. Like, and I have a therapist that I'll talk to, and we have conversations.
Hold on, you say you have
I have a therapist.
Yes.
Yeah, that I'll talk to.
Same here.
And we talk like, and we talk about like celebrating yourself.
Yeah.
And when I finished that, I was like, what's next? Right? Sign my contract and leave. I'm like, what's next? Right? Like you like, I don't even take like a moment to like just sit there and ingest it and absorb it to say like, dude, like you've accomplished a lot. Right? Like even to this point right now, like I've never like even just sat there and like, man, I got a PhD. Like, oh my gosh, like that's actually cool. Like I just don't even know how to like do that. Right. And so like I'm learning. But from an implementation standpoint, right? Like every week, Chris, what do? Right? You have install. Right. And install is you're implementing the game plan for what? Your opponents, right? How you're going to attack it and what's it going to look like, right? All right, what's the process of this play?
Break it down.
Yeah, like procedurally, why are we doing like, and it's the same thing and it transition over into like the workspace and what you're doing now, but we don't have people to actually like take you through like, hey, here's actually what you were doing in your sport and here's how it like applies to now. And so when I think back to like when I completed my PhD and I'm like, what's next? What's funny enough, right before, like literally probably 8-9 months before I completed my PhD, I get a call from the head football coach at Vanderbilt. He said, hey man, your name has come up with everybody I reached out about this job as director of player development. I don't even know you. Like, but I want to offer you this job. And he offered me the job and it took me probably 3 weeks. Now at this point, like from a transition standpoint, I'm in a groove. So like mentally, like I'm like, all right, I know what's going on now. And, you know, just talking with my wife and figuring out like, hey, what I want to do long-term, I had to get in the door. Yeah. And this was my way to get in. Yeah. And so it's just, I mean, it's taken off since then. Yeah.
Well, you in now. I will say before I even get into that, there is a new group called PAX, Pro Athlete Community, that is starting to help athletes and show athletes that their skills are transferable into this space. And that's also piggyback on some of the stuff that we're doing with Team Q is we can bringing that self-awareness of your coachability, character, leadership, using our language models to do that. And so it's been fun to now have groups that I'm starting to see pop up that can then help the athlete make that transition. Yeah. And so now, you know, we can really cement that those skills that we have in a way that we now get exposed to other things. Yeah. And once you get the exposure, that's where the real magic starts to happen.
There's education, right? There is mentoring, right? But people have to start putting their names behind these athletes. Like there has to be sponsorship attached to it, right? Because I can go out and I can educate a kid on like how to transfer skills. I can mentor him. I can do all of that. But am I willing to pick up that phone and call somebody and say, hey, look, here's somebody that will drastically impact your organization. I think you should take a look at them. Like that's what we need more of, right? Especially in our community. Like there's so many guys that are broken, right? And they're trying to figure it out. Like what is like post-concussive syndrome, or, they don't understand or have like hope in terms of like what's next for them. But we can have, all these like different things that the NFL like implement. But at some point we're going to have to say, hey, look, man, who's willing to make a call on this person's behalf? Like who's willing to sponsor him, right? Like I think to the Chicago Bears right now, Cliff Stein is somebody I have a great relationship with to this day. And if I pick the phone up and call Cliff, he pick it up. Right. And if I need Cliff to make a call on my behalf, Cliff make a call on my behalf.
Right.
If there's somebody that I know that I've been mentoring, that I've educated, et cetera, and want to like help them like get their feet, like I'm gonna call like on their behalf. And so these programs are great, but like at some point we got to start like actually sponsoring the athlete, putting our name behind him, say, hey, look, I stamped this person.
Yeah.
Right.
And we as athletes also got to want to seek those mentorships that we can get the people to put their name behind us. And so I think it's all starting to kind of come to light because of the environment that we're in, of areas that we need to have that focus in. So, but you brought up a good question. You brought up a good point. As you're talking about, how we support athletes. Now you're in this position as a GM, looking at how do I manage a budget of resources to help set athletes up for success. First of all, I want to ask, what is the Vandy way? And then the second question is, what is the day-to-day grind of what is the new GM role for athletic departments? Yeah.
Well, Vanderbilt is a preeminent destination for student athletes. In this landscape that's ever changing, like we still want to be transformative. Like we want student athletes to come to Vanderbilt to get a great education, to have a great student athlete experience, but then also to your point, to understand just like the importance of like financial stability. And so for us, what we do is we have the Ingram Center that literally teaches like financial courses. We have a career development embedded within the Ingram Center. And so like these things like all combine and come together to create, really the best person, the best individual that, you can be. Right. Like it's in holistic approach.
Right.
And what we try to do is we try to really seek the aspect of the individual, right? So it's like, it's boutique-ish to a point. I think with my role and what I'm doing now is to really focus on the financial side of things, right? So obviously the House settlement was approved so we can rev share $20.5 million with student athletes, right? And so figuring out which sport receives what, the roster retention management side of things, the contract side of things is where I come in at, having a relationship with the agents, having a relationship with the student athletes, having a relationship with each sport, right? Knowing that there's going to be a lot of things that come and go, student athletes come and go, making sure our contracts are like robust. Because again, you're sharing $20.5 million. You don't want to just be burning resources. And so that's kind of my role. That's what I'm doing now. I think it'll continue to evolve. You'll see other institutions that take a similar pro model approach that we have. I just saw Arkansas deputy athletic director is now like their GM too. And so, we try to we try to be sophisticated in our approach, but also disruptive. And I think being disruptive in this new landscape requires you to look at, your entire organization critically and say, what do we need and how do we accomplish it?
Yeah. When you talk about a disruption over the last 2 to 3 years, collectives have kind of like picked up and really kind of blown people out of water. Texas A&M and big universities have a lot of money to dump into their collectives. How is that landscape now that this ruling has come down? How is that being monitored where the collectives and the university, are they two separate things or are they one? What is that model like now?
Yeah, it's level setting, right? You're going to reset the market too for student athletes because some of these schools are just paying outrageous money just try to get the best of the best. there are some institutions that are, absorbing their collective. So they're coming in house and, they're still running different campaigns through the collective. We're still trying to figure out what we want to do with ours. We got some time. We don't want to rush it. And, we want to make the best decision that's going to be conducive to Vanderbilt athletics. And so you have this cool dynamic to where now we have the same amount of resources that some of these other institutions have too. And so you level the playing field almost, but still they're going to be live field and IMG and other third party aspects that some of these schools are going to utilize to overcompensate some student athletes. But the best part is that it has to go through fair market value.
Yeah.
So fair market value is the NCAA partner with Deloitte that say that, hey, man, we need some sort of system to ensure that we aren't just like paying these kids too much money that their actual NIL is worth. And so they created NIL Go. NIL Go, student athletes sign up. Any deals that they receive, they have to push it through that. Now, if it's rev share, you don't have to push it through NIL Go because it's coming from the university. Right. But anything that's third party outside, then you have to push it through that. And if it's $600 or over, you have to go through that. If it's under $600 just one time, then it don't have to. But if you're doing multiple payments from that particular company or that particular entity, and it's going to be over 600, then you have to report it.
Yeah. Okay. And so when you, and that's every kid in the country is going through this process. So then you really get to see what the market is actually, the real market value is versus the he say, she say, this person's getting 2 million, this person's getting, 5 million. And so it really helps manage the resources because the way we were going, resources are going to run out.
Oh yeah, man. Like, shoot, it was like, this, I saw a school that put out a post. I saw a couple of people. I've been forwarded some emails in terms of a lot of institutions had to front load like contracts so they could try to get the best of the players to compete like this next upcoming season. And they're like, we'll figure out what the next year look like. And some people can meet payroll. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like difficult because you're thinking about basketball teams are spending $15, $20 million on a roster. You're thinking about football schools spending 25, 30, 40 million on a roster. And it's just like, oh my God, it's like, where are you getting this money from? Well, it's gonna come out of your operating expenses as you move forward in the new landscape. But for some of these schools, it came out of their donors, right? And if it's coming out of their donors,
hey, we need for this kid, not a sustainable model.
Yeah, and that impacts your budget even more, right? Because like this is Rob who's gonna give, let's just say, $20 million to the institution for some upgrades in the building. You need new computer monitors, et cetera, like all those operational expenses. That now has been negated. And it's going to the collective. So you just lost out on $20 million because you're trying to fill the best football or best basketball team that you could. And so, I mean, it was a Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we're in this new space to where there are going to be some like guardrails and rules and laws around it.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm excited for all the stuff to start to come in place because the most important piece of it for me, as I think about it, is the long-term vision of these student athletes who are going to go on and be, mothers and fathers and, CEOs and managers of companies. How are you as a former athlete who's gone through this process, who've had to take a step back so you can look long-term versus a short-term? Short-term, you said, man, I canceled these classes. I went to Miami.
Oh yeah.
And then you came back and you say, okay, now I got to start thinking long term. How do you share those experiences and think and help these young athletes think about what is my long term vision so that when I'm making a decision from a financial standpoint, because it's nice to be making money, but when I'm making this decision long term for my future, what is it that I'm doing to set myself for that? So how are you, in this new role? And I know you've been doing it for a while as a player development, but part that kind of wisdom on these kids so we can get them thinking long-term versus short-term. Because not every environment's the right environment for you.
So we have Bridge program every summer. And with the Bridge program, we have different vendors come in and just talk about like their specific entity and what they're doing, right? So we'll have Coca-Cola come in and talk to them about just their process, hiring people, their mission, vision, etc. We'll have First Bank come in and do a financial literacy course like with the student athletes so that they understand like the finances of everything. We've had Cap Trust Financial come in and talk about the financial aspect of things. And then like for us, we're really like big on postgraduate employment, right? Mm-hmm. Like actually like gathering data to figure out like, okay, where are our student athletes going and like who are they working for?
Yeah.
And keeping up with that information is critical because now you can show that in recruiting to say like, hey, look, we have people that's on Wall Street. We have people that's at UBS. We have people that's at Google, right? And so you build that database, you build that network. And that's the part that I really enjoy and love to see because we're teaching the financial side of it. We're teaching the corporate side of things. And then we're tracking in terms of where they're going to see how we can continue to make an impact on the people that's coming into Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
We're going to take it a step further because obviously with the compensation for student athletes, you got to provide more insight on the financial side of things, right? Mm-hmm. The accounting part of it, the tax preparation. You got to dive into really the hard conversation with mom and dad, right? In terms of, hey, I can't just keep paying your bills, right? And so, we're getting to a point to where we feel really good about our process, our systems, and things that we're doing to implement.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great to hear, man, because I think that's one of my biggest worries for a lot of kids that are, coming out of areas that just doesn't have we don't have the support to understand how to manage the finance side of things and not how to get too far ahead of ourselves and we spend too much and don't have enough of taxes.
Oh, yeah. And so they love those Hellcats.
Yeah. And again, we all were young. Yeah. When you're, 19, especially now when we got it, it was 22, 23 years old, but now it's even younger. And so the ones who sit back and judge now and say, oh, why is these kids doing this? I always remind them, think about when you were that young.
Oh yeah.
So you have to think back to it. And so now how do you get them to think critically? So I'm happy to hear that I'm excited to hear that you guys are leading into how to manage all those pieces. And I think the number one thing of it is, you said, is how do we have a conversation with the parents, with the families, because those are the hard conversations. Because it's not just getting the kid thinking long-term, it's also getting the family as a whole thinking long-term. So
there's so much like added to titles with people, right? Mm-hmm. That's mom, that's dad, that's sister, that's brother, that's cousin, right? What we have to realize is that they're human. They're regular people, right? Some of them are manipulative. Some of them are selfish, right? Yeah. Like, and all these things weigh into it. And you have to learn how to operate with the person and not the title.
Right.
And so that's what we try to get them to see and to understand. And again, like you got to take care of yourself too, right? Yeah. I didn't learn how to have a hard conversation with my parents until I was 26, 27. And had, millions of dollars. And now I'm looking like I got to say something, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like these kids are 18, 19 with millions of dollars. And now it's the time, you got to have these conversations now, unfortunately. Fortunately and unfortunately. Right.
Yeah. It's a double-edged sword.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so it's, it's one of those things where it's never easy the first time.
Okay.
And they'll continue to go through it, and the parents will continue to come back. I took care of you my whole life. You know how that whole story goes. And so just equipping them with the tools to have those conversations.
Yeah. Well, Earl, this has been fantastic, man. I got two more questions for you. One is easy. Well, both of them are probably going to be easy for you. Have you looked at the schedule yet, the football schedule? Is Ole Miss on your schedule this year?
No, I won't have Ole Miss.
Okay, all right. So we can get out of this conversation without having too much animosity.
You guys. I don't know if y'all wanted to come play here, but
don't see. You know what? I'm gonna quickly go to the next question so we don't get into it right now. Sit in this seat. My last question for you, Earl, is, man, when you think about your life and you think about all the ups and downs, all the heartache and pain that you had to go through.
Yeah.
Also, all the successes that you've now have stacked up. What is that? What is that one, maybe two intangibles that makes Earl Bennett who he is today?
Oh man, that's easy. Determination and thought process.
Mm,
I think one of the most determined person that you'll meet, and I think my thought process is always like, what's next, and like systematically, what's the approach that I need to take to accomplish it. And that's just how I've always been since I was like a little kid. Even growing up in what I like to call the jungle, just trying to figure out like, hey, like, how do I accomplish this next task, right? But just like the sheer determination behind it is unparalleled. I just don't know how to say I can't do something, right? Like, I just don't.
it's actually funny that you chose those are your two, because as somebody who has been around you,
Yeah.
watch you as a pro, 2 years together.
Yep.
I watched your process.
Yeah.
And you had a process day in and day out.
Yeah.
I watched it. And then to come here in Nashville, and I remember when you first moved back here in Nashville, I was still here, you coming back, and you started with Vandy. And then to watch your process over the last 4 or 5 years, I mean, it's been tremendous.
Yeah.
Year in and year out. Like you can tell you set your mind on something, and then you accomplish it, and then you say what's next, and then you get to the next thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited to see what's next for you. I hope that's, AD. I mean, hell, I think you need to be a GM in NFL somewhere. Like president. I think you have president of a team. I think you have that kind of acumen, that type of leadership. And so I'm excited to watch where things go for you. And remember, I'm saying it right now, like those are the next things I think is there for Earl Bennett, because you have it. You have that it factor, man. So really appreciate you joining me on Intangible Podcast. Hope everyone loves this interview.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, man. This is great.